Hello everyone, welcome to today's webinar, Safekeeping Our Dams, part of our ongoing Innovation Spotlight webinar series. I'm Tim Buckley, AustMine Membership Manager for South Australia, and I'm your host today. Before we begin, and on behalf of AustMine and all of today's presenting companies, I'd like to acknowledge that I am hosting this webinar from the lands of the Kaurna people. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which we all meet today and recognise the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people attending this webinar. Next slide, please. The Innovation Spotlight webinar series provides our members a way to showcase their innovative solutions, techniques and technologies to see what the next phase of mining holds. Next slide. And today we continue the series with Safekeeping Our Dams, showcasing our members' advancements and expertise in technologies, methodologies and best practices. I am joined by three industry-leading member companies who will share how these technologies and solutions are being applied to ensure stability of tailings dams, mitigate risks and prioritise environmental sustainability. Joining us to share their expertise today is Jacques Janse, CEO of Phibion, Ian McKechnie, Lead Product Manager, Hatch Tailings Management Solutions, and Dr. Jeffrey Batt, Acting Director, Research Strategy, MRIWA. The format of this webinar will include a short presentation by each of our presenters, followed by a Q&A session. If you have any questions for any of the presenters during the webinar, please type them into the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. If your question is directed to a specific presenter, please note their name in your question. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared with all attendees. That concludes the welcome and introduction. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our first presenter, Jacques Janse, CEO of Phibion.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you for AustMine to give us this opportunity to showcase our company and our solutions. I will wait for you to share the presentation so that I have control, Tim, and then I will continue. Thank you. So who and what is Phibion? So Phibion is a tailings management technology and services company, and we have advanced in-situ mechanical dewatering technology. Our mission is to make tailings dams safer, smaller, and more sustainable. We have offices in Australia and Jamaica, Chile, Brazil, and also soon to have in Peru. We have a factory here in Brisbane, so you're welcome to come and visit us to see what we do here. So we have invented a process called Accelerated Mechanical Consolidation, which is an in-situ dewatering technology. And what we do with this technology, which includes a method as well as the machine you see there, which is an Archimedes screw drive tractor. What we do with this solution is we reduce the volume footprint needed for tailings. We recover large amounts of water trapped in tailings, thereby making the tailings more dense and hence strengther. We reduce the risk of liquefaction, and we defer the need for capital expenditure in our customer base by not needing to build more dams or to lift tailing dam walls. How does this AMC process work? So from the side and from the top, you can see there, our customer places this deposition in the dam in specific layer depths. We then use our mud master to plow through the tailings from the point of deposition to the point of where the water is recovered. So this then forces the water to the surface, and the water then run down these scroll tracks, and I'll show you some pictures later, to the point where the water can be recovered. This process is then repeated until we get the desired density and the strength, and then we just repeat this process all over again. So here I'm showing some pictures and some video of a typical cycle. So day 1, there's deposition. Day 14, you can see tracks showing water gathering, flowing down the tracks. Day 31, you can see that there's almost no water left and only consolidation is happening. And then day 42, you can see the picture in this last video shows the state of the tailings at the end of that process where people and machinery can traverse the surface. Here is a typical example of one of our customers in northern Queensland. And I thought I'd show you this facility because this is typically how we worked. So to the right-hand side of this picture, you can see fresh deposition. Then sort of at the back and to the front of this picture, you can see where we are busy in different processes and different cycle of the AMC process. And to the left of this picture, that section of the dam shows a completed section after the 42 days with no water left in the tailings. So customers use us because over time we've proven that we can increase the density of tailings as much as 20%. We recover as much as 40% of the water trapped in tailings. And we reduce the volume or area needed for tailings by 50% and often leave that surface greater than 30 kPa. So this solution is scalable to any production rate, and the benefits start immediately from using the technology. And it can be applied at any point of the life cycle. We can go to a legacy dam or we can start a dam right from the beginning. It doesn't matter. We fit in everywhere. So in the PASTE conference of 2020, one of our customers in Western Australia showed this graph where he compared technologies and looking at moisture content after applying different technologies. And here he showed that using the AMC process and combining that, by the way, some of our customers call our process not AMC, they call it mud farming. But using the mud farming and low pressure doses, they've actually shown that it is the most effective technology to remove moisture from tailings. In that same conference, the customer also thought of showing a cost comparison. So comparing our process in their facility that did 10.5 million tons per annum, looking at, say, comparing it to plate and frame filtration. Our solution, because we don't sell a machine to our customer, we sell a service. There's no upfront capital cost, so there's no capex layout compared to hundreds of millions of dollars for other technologies. And comparing the operational cost, our cost was like, or should I say, other technologies was almost 10 times more expensive than our solution to operate on an annual basis. I thought I'd show you some reports, and this was an independent report done in Chile by a company called GA Consultores. And they made a study of a Chilean mine close to Santiago, where we did a 90-day trial for the customer. And the independent report showed that we, in that 90-day period, in that given operational area, we had a 35% increase in density. We also achieved, when you look at the infiltration rate, it went from 29% to 97%. So what that meant is that the tailings were left in a dilative state compared to a contractive state. So it basically means that it cannot be liquefied ever again. It will stay in that state. They also proved that the consolidation rate was 10 times faster than natural processes. And the tailing strength went from 10 kPa to 70 kPa at a 1 meter depth. And then also in that 90-day period, we recovered volume for the customer to the note of about 40,000 cubic meters, which basically, if you analyze that, if the customer would have continued using that for the whole year, they would have seen 1,415 days of additional operation that we created for them. We've done a white paper on cone penetration testing, and this is a graph that comes from one of our customers in Western Australia, working in so-called red mud. And what they proved with CPT testing there was that even though we work on a certain level or a certain depth or a certain phase, after continual use, after about 4 or 5 years of continual use, they've seen the properties of the tailing change from anywhere from 5 to 8 meters, then turning into the same properties at depth as the properties that we have worked on. So that's quite significant, saying that the longer we apply this process, the stronger the tailing dam gets in terms of density and strength throughout its depth. We've recently completed a short 6-week trial period in Peru. And if you look to the left of this picture, you'll see a tailings dam, and that's a satellite picture showing moisture. And this tailings dam is not a constructed tailings dam like the one I showed you before that was just perfectly square or rectangular. This tailings dam was actually created in a valley with only one wall. And so you can see almost the whole of that picture shows moisture in the tailings dam. And so the area that we worked is highlighted there, and that started showing light blue and orangey colors after 6 weeks. So that's basically saying the water is being extracted. And in that short 6-week period, we saw a 50% increase in water release. We saw a 22% increase in density and 1,000% increase in strength, which is quite phenomenal, going from 5 kPa to 55 kPa. Quite recently, mine in the Amazon called MRN published in the December 2023 report, where they referred to the global industry standard of tailings management, a very unique project where they decided to build a dam, which they called SP25. And they designed this dam with AMC in mind. So basically saying from its inception, it will use the Phibion process. And so they started the operation in June of 2023. They deposited 3 different layers, which the Phibion process was applied to all of those 3 layers. They then started harvesting. The harvesting process of that dried material started 130 days after the last deposition. And in total, it was about 216,000 ton of deposition. And at the point of deposition, it had 22.8% solids. At the end of the process, it had 58.7, close to 60% solids, and the surface was at 30 kPa. So then the customers started digging and harvesting the material, and they repurposed that dry material to fill mining voids and to use in other parts of rehabilitation for their program. So basically on the left-hand side, you see the dam with its first fresh pour. Then the middle picture shows you what it looks like midway through the AMC process. And to the right-hand side of the picture, you can see the harvesting going on.
Jacques, you might just want to get into your wrap-up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm there. So this is my last slide. Thank you, Tim. So Phibion help our customers to reduce land usage for tailings. We recover water from tailings, as I said. We increase the ability by 10 times than before, 3 times faster than before. And what's interesting about that MRN mine I just showed you, we did a study proving that using that process, they reduced their carbon footprint by 60%. So we use this process of ours to keep communities and the environment safe and preventing tailing dam collapse. So Tim, that is how Phibion helps keeping our dams safe. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jacques. And it was very, very interesting too. I'd love to let you go longer, but we're on a time constraint. The Mudmaster looks fantastic. It obviously works.
Just Tim, as an addition, we also launched at the World Mining Congress last year a fully autonomous version.
Oh, that's great. Moving ahead. All right, thank you very much, Jacques. So next up, I would like to welcome Ian McKechnie, lead product manager at Hatch Tailings Management Solutions. Over to you, Ian.
Thanks very much, Tim. And look, as someone used to work on vacuum filters myself, yes, they are definitely CapEx and OpEx sinks. But we prefer to have a dozer running much more cheap on the facility. Early disclaimer as well, my pictures are not going to be as cool as Jacques, so I apologize in advance. Hi, folks. My name is Ian McKechnie. I am the lead product manager at Hatch, and I'm here to talk about our integrated tailings management solution. My background is I'm a professional mining engineer. I'm obviously Canadian, although I worked some good duration in Australia. Most of my career has been with BHP and Anglo American, and most recently, I've been working on closing tailing sites and working tailings operations and improving solutions to help folks who are currently in that important part of our field. For those of you who don't know a little bit about Hatch, here's a few summary elements on the screen. We're a multinational consulting company all over the world, and we've got a substantial tailings practice. So when we're building software, we're supported by a large tailings group that helps us out with technical matters and their own experience. And that encompasses both design, operations, as well as working as engineer record for some of the largest facilities in the world. I've also included a snippet from our corporate mission, specifically the one at the bolded there at the bottom, saying that part of our job is to solve the world's toughest challenges. And for those of you who are working in operations or corporate assurance for tailings, you know that our job has definitely not gotten any easier over the past several years, and we could definitely use some help. Some of the things that we've heard around the world when talking about the need for software and systems to help out with this topic is that there are a large amount of instrumentation silos, data silos, and increasing costs, particularly for those of you around when the GSTM first came in. It seemed like we had to instrument everything and catch up 50 years in the space of 5 years. Likewise, we haven't usually added more people to the practice of tailings management, unfortunately, not that there's that many people available, but we are putting more responsibility on the people that are currently in those jobs, often without increasing resources there to support them. So I'm sure that sounds familiar to many of you. And finally, as is true in many operations, those of you who are operations management or supervision or helping out with assurance, a lot of our job is involved in stabilizing the present, so ensuring that operations is heading consistently, we're not constrained by our tailings operations, and things are flowing smoothly and everyone's getting what they want. But also we know that we need to get ready for the future. People don't tend to stay in their jobs as long as they used to. Operating conditions are definitely changing. Regulators are getting more involved. It is definitely a changing landscape that we all operate in. In response to that, what we found is that we've got the ability with using newer technology to begin integrating sensor networks. So instead of buying new things, we can potentially extend the length of older sensors by integrating the modern tools. This includes both older school automated sensors, as well as using increasing amounts of manual data. If you already have a person out in the field collecting information, there's no reason why that information can't be brought into a system and promoted to the same level as more expensive brethren. Likewise, with increasing responsibility, often it's just putting the pieces together. So the number of us that have had to chase down emails or look after people a month later or try to find, hey, where was that data again? Lots of the folks will say, just put the data in one spot. It's actually put the data in one spot and then provide the people working with that data a common connection to it so that each of them can get each other's way, get what they need, and therefore their interactions be more meaningful and the problems get resolved sooner. Finally, when you're trying to prepare for the future and stabilize the present, the best thing to do is wrap a net around all that information that you're generating at your operation. I'm sure we've all experienced, you'll create an email, you'll write a report, you'll make a piece of paper, you'll take a picture, and you're like, oh, I should put that in the proper spot, but you know, I'll get around it when I have spare time, which is usually on the weekend. Or maybe when you got a little bit of leave, you'll catch up on your paperwork. Through systems, you can actually push more of that stuff as it's generated by the operation straight into the system, which means that when you go looking for it, it's already there, and you lose a lot of that overhead, a lot of extra time required to kind of babysit your systems and make sure things are running properly. So I am working up to, obviously, a solution for this. So Hatch saw many of these needs, both from our clients and also our observation of the market at large. And as a result, we've been working on a software solution for the past about year and a half. And I'm going to share with you some of the elements of that today. There's some very fancy marketing language up there on the left-hand side that I'll let you read over. But for me, as an engineer, like, isn't it time that the tailings folks got good tools? We've got a lot of very fancy applications else in the world for their specific purposes, and it often feels like engineering teams get left behind, or we're stuck with kind of the 10 year old God's stuff, or Excel plus. This is a chance to actually use better software that's fit for this purpose, and we do feel that we're one of the strongest, if not probably the only, full-scale tailings management solution out there in the market today. A few of the key pieces that we have and that we're very proud of is, everything starts off with a really great map. We've tested our system with integrating up to 300 sensors at once, so we know they can scale up and connect a whole bunch of different sensors from different types. We've partnered with Google to ensure that we're at the front end of IoT, and so far we've yet to be stumped by a sensor type, including ones that were 20 years plus old that had never been connected to before. Likewise, we want to have, there's no picture there. That would have been an advanced GIS system, which shows lots of GIS survey instruments and measurements showing survey files. Oh, it fades in. That's why it's not there. My apologies, folks. Likewise, we've given ourselves a full customized dashboarding system. So I've never met an engineer yet who is perfectly happy with the state of their reports. What this allows clients to do is that they're able to generate information specific to the need that's there. You could have one for a weekly stand-up, one for a daily management report, and one streaming their desktop. or for anyone else who needs something, create a dashboard for them, and they get access to data. That's one less task for you to do day to day, week to week. Of course, we also wouldn't get anywhere without really good graphs tracking information flowing through. So this is an example of deposition tracking materials being deposited on a facility. But we'll make sure that any of the data coming in the system is promotable up to this level. So nothing gets orphaned off to the side. You don't need to make compromises between like, oh, well, only these sensors get to do this thing. We've ensured that every piece that goes in can also come out in a way that is useful and appropriate for the engineers and the associated staff using it. Finally, none of this matters if we're not able to keep up on the back end. So a lot of investment was made up front to ensure that we have a high velocity enterprise grade data system that handles it all in the back end. So what that means is that you can pull the data out on your own through Delta shares into Power BI or Tableau, whatever you want to do. If you've got some hotshot data scientists out there, some really keen graduate engineers, and we've tested this part of the system to handle data frequencies at up to 4 or 5 data points per second. So thankfully in the tailings world, we don't tend to get that much data, but it means that we can scale up as we need to, and we're not going to be constrained by our software. Moving on to the qualitative stuff. This is an element where we're able to pull in a whole bunch of additional information that doesn't usually get captured by monitoring systems. So we've built in a full-scale action tracking system. So for folks who are trying to assign work to people on the ground and get information back from inspections and manual readings, you've got some confidence that people there are doing what they're supposed to, and they're doing it on time. And you can see the status of that. Likewise, we can promote critical activities upwards to create a site change register. This is more for your large-scale capital projects, and when you're finishing up kind of major earthworks or things, or maybe you've purchased a new mud miner. This is a way to track how its performance is going and ensure that over the years, that information stays there. You don't need to go looking back for it, wondering where that thing was from 3 years ago. When it's in the system, everyone can see it. And that includes if you want to bring auditors into the family, you can say, hey, if you want to see what's going on, here's the list. I don't need to do any preparation for you when you come swinging by. To support that, we built a fit-for-purpose document management system. This isn't meant to replace your SharePoints or your Documentums with all their workflows. This is mainly just making sure that everything that the system is generating and all the documents you have related to tailings stay in one spot. That means that each piece of the system can refer to them, reuse them, and make your life easier. Less searching for things. Next up, we've got a built-in GSTM standard. So we put the entire standard in place. A lot of people had got to the Excel stage of GSTM compliance quite competently. But now they might be thinking about, well, now I'm going to babysit this thing for the next several years and update it and distribute it to various people. And why is it just me doing this? This is a way to pass out that accountability and authority to other people in the organization. You sit on top and you control the standard is going, and then you make other people fill in their pieces, and then you can see and you can report and you can do your portion, which is typically more assurance or self-performing some parts of the requirements. Someone could be up and running their GSTM standard within less than half an hour from nothing to a full standard coverage and bringing in your information and getting going with the job rather than pushing around Excel files and cells. Finally, on the back end of the technical standards component, we've got a plan on the page, because who doesn't love a good plan on the page? What this means is that you've got stakeholders who need to be perfectly involved in what's going on, and you can bring them in and say, hey, look, boss, let's not have a meeting about this. You can go and take a look at the system yourself. You can interact, you can add comments, you can interface people working on it, and you can see what's going on just like I can. And that's one fewer meeting, one fewer update. Everyone can use the system and get a live look at what's going on rather than waiting for updates that happen once a quarter. Leaves you less wondering what's happening and more understanding of what needs to happen next. I'll close off with why we're different. And this is really important to me and hopefully important to you as well. So we're not just in a software company, we're an engineering company that's built engineering software, and we're sharing it with you here today. The big thing for us is that we know that this isn't just a monitoring question, and we know that these problems have been around for a long time. What we're working on is we're solving tailings management, the whole thing, and moving towards understanding of facility health, which is a lot more than just what are my sensors reading today, or how do those piezometers look for the past couple months. I showed you a bunch of pieces today, and we're going further than that as we go forward. Likewise, we built pieces of our system which accommodate things beyond tailings. So water dams have very similar management practices. Likewise, there's very close correlations with the environmental domains and the external stakeholders domains. So as engineers and as people who are intimately involved in tailings, we know that starting with a good foundation and a good core solves the problems of today, but also allows you to expand that same system in very logical ways to meet those broader needs without needing to toss the whole thing out, without needing to have a melange of systems. You can actually move forward and make steady progress throughout. As a point of personal pride, looking at where we were 9 months ago, building the foundations of this software, I want to share with you, we're moving really fast, and fast is good in this case. Not that it always is in mining. We release a new version of our software every 2 to 3 weeks to our clients. We get feedback from them and using agile processes. We are very eager to listen to our clients and the ideas that they have and how we can make their lives better. It really is truly satisfying to be able to work with tools that matter for people on the ground, and I'm really thrilled about where we're going in the year to come. Finally, and probably most importantly, we want to make sure that this is a client relationship, not just a software sales relationship. Hatch as a company and myself personally are deeply invested in ensuring that you have long-term success. This isn't just putting in a tool and making things better. This is a chance to actually solve the real problems for yourself and for your people on the ground and help make your company more profitable, safer, and have an impact on this discipline of ours. So hopefully that was very interesting for you as well. I really appreciate the opportunity to share it with you today, and hopefully I ended on time. Thanks, Tim. On to the next one.
That was great, Ian, and brilliant demonstration of the use of technology and the effect it can have with your monitoring of tailings dams. So finally, it's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Jeffrey Batt, Acting Director, Research Strategy at MRIWA. Over to you. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thanks, Tim. Is my video going to start too? Maybe not. Okay, great pleasure to be here speaking to the webinar today. Okay, there's the video. Now, I don't have a solution to pitch to you today. Instead, what I've got is a general discussion about what MRIWA is doing in this space to support innovation in the important sector of tailings dam monitoring. To begin, start with an acknowledgement of the fact that I'm speaking to you today from Noongar country here in Western Australia. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we respect the elders past and present of the Noongar people, and that MRIWA commits to supporting the emerging thought leaders in that community as well into the future. Now, two things to start. Tailings management matters. It's really important. And I'll begin with this quote from Ronald Reagan, not Rachel Reagan, Ronald Reagan, going back now to 1986, a good time before probably many in this call were even in industry or possibly even born. Reagan said these were the 9 most terrifying words in the English language. I take a different view. I'm proud to say that I work for the West Australian government, and I am here to support and help industry and those related to the mining sector to improve what they do and deliver better outcomes for the industry and for my state of Western Australia. Particularly, MRIWA is somewhat unique as a government agency. We don't regulate the sector. We don't offer industry advice. I'm not here to tell you what to do. What we do is support and encourage the process of minerals research and innovation in any area of the mining value chain to improve outcomes in the sector. So if you have ideas that you want to pursue that can deliver, address the problems of the sector or deliver greater value to you as an industry participant, that's the kind of thing that we want to be supporting. Particularly, our mission as an organization is to, as it says here, supporting impactful applied minerals research to capability in and deliver economic, social, and or environmental benefit to Western Australia. Now, there's a few key things in that statement there that we'll get to, particularly that combination of, for us, value can be anywhere from the economic, the social, and the environmental. And then that's where tailings becomes so important to us. We operate through 3 principal avenues of delivering support into that sector. We have a number of what we call declared focus areas, where MRIWA is trying to stimulate research that delivers high value to the state and bring together the people who have the capacity to deliver that research. We provide an education program which supports graduate research and the development of high-level talent in the sector. But the area of primary interest to the conversation today is we also offer a number of open grant rounds through the year to support research ideas that have potential to deliver value into this research space. Currently, if I just put up the state of our portfolio, we've got about $18.1 million invested in research projects. That's divided fairly equally between standalone projects and working with CRCs, with some additional investment in our education program through scholarships. Now, because of the way we operate, when we invest in research, we are not usually fully funding projects. We're co-funding with partners from industry, from government, from other sectors. So that investment on our part is leveraging about $76 million in total of research with value to Western Australia. And over the past year, we had 17 projects complete and 27 new projects commence. So our portfolio is growing, and we're increasing our investment in research here in the over the last few years. So what about tailings? How does tailings facilities relate to that portfolio? Well, the key thing I mentioned earlier is that threefold definition for us of what value means. So money, it's not for us just about money. Economic benefit is great, we respect that, but we also need to consider what can bring advantage to the community of Western Australia and the environment of our state. And tailings sits across this threefold definition of value quite effectively. Everyone's seen these numbers, I'm sure. We all know that mining makes a massive contribution to the economy in Western Australia. The figures speak for themselves. $174 billion in the past year contributed to the economy, $12.6 billion in direct wages and salaries to the sector, and almost $11 billion to the state government here. That's great, and that benefit is a wonderful thing. But the issue is that those benefits are highly transferable. We can take that money that we receive, and that can be used to build great buildings in the city here in West Perth. It can develop parkland here in the heart of the city. It can be transferred anywhere in the state to support interests and activities. The problems that arise from mining, though, are located where the mining happens. And one of the issues here is tailings facilities will develop and have to be secured and managed where the mining happens. And so we need to make sure we balance up the transferable benefits of the mining sector with those local costs. So for us, working on improving the management of tailings is a great benefit to the state, because it allows us to make sure that we safeguard the local communities where mining happens and the benefit they provide to the overall economy of the state. Now, our current portfolio of research covers a wide range of different aspects of tailings, including gathering data about tailings and storage facilities, looking at potential areas for extracting additional value from reprocessing of tailings material and the safe use of bulk waste, looking at a general mine process to reduce waste volume created, and particularly for today's conversation, tailings facility practice. We're looking at supporting research which improves processes for constructing and monitoring of safe, effective tailings and waste storage facilities. And if I could expand on that part of the portfolio there briefly. What does that mean? Well, currently we're supporting 5 major projects in this space: accelerated consolidation of mine tailings, looking at optimization of mine complexes through management of the system, integrating field monitoring and numerical modeling to better quantify stability of tailings storage facilities, use of sustainable management of filtered tailings, and then generally looking at opportunities for growth in the mine closure solutions industry, incorporating tailings management and rehabilitation. Now, the question, of course, obviously is, are these solutions that you need? And the answer to that is, I don't know. I'm not here to tell you what to do. The thing I want to draw out of this, though, is if these aren't the solutions that you need, you're the people best placed to understand what your particular organization needs and what you need to do to advance your practice and your management to deliver better outcomes for you, for your stakeholders, and for the local communities. Where MRIWA comes to the party on this one is we want to support you in that process. We respect that the industry knows what it needs to do. We respect that you as the operators know what your individual operations are, what your challenges are, what could be changes you could make to deliver value, and how hard they'll be to implement. Now, looking at that division into these different sectors here, what does that mean? Well, where will MRIWA work with you and support you? Where is our contribution going to be valuable? Well, the high value, easy things, you're doing those already. If you know what's going on here, you're already taking care of that stuff because it's delivering value to you as an organization. And MRIWA's help is also not going to be of any use to you in this sector here. We're not going to support people to make incremental changes that we know will work, and it's a matter of putting them in place and getting some minor value for the organization. Where research value can support you, though, where MRIWA can be involved in helping you to change the way you're operating, is in these right-hand parts of the sector here. You know, things that you know can deliver some value but are hard to do. Well, research is looking at how can we increase the value that's delivered here so that we can achieve this, increase the value we can deliver, and make it more worthwhile for the organization, so it becomes then a point of value. And up in that upper right-hand corner there, these are the moonshots, things that really change the way things are done, but we can't make them work yet. In research here is about, can we make this easier? Can we find ways to simplify the process and deliver better outcomes without the same challenges to allow us to realize those high value gains? And this is what research does. And so where MRIWA can be involved and support you in undertaking the research that you need to deliver the innovations that can make value in these parts of your practice. So closing up, parting thoughts. We exist as an organization to support research that can really change the way things happen in the mineral sector with benefit to Western Australia. And stability and monitoring of tailings facilities is a strong alignment to our mission. And we see a great range of value potentials in this space that we can and do want to support to improve sector practice in these areas. And fundamentally, if you've got a research need in this space, we're here to listen to you and talk about how that can be done, and we can support you in achieving that. And I'll finish there and take it back to Tim for questions.
That's fantastic, Jeffrey. Yeah, and some real economic benefit to the mining companies of Western Australia through your extensive work there. So
that's what we want to see.
Yeah. So now if we can move on to audience Q&As. If you haven't already sent in a question, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. But I've got a question here in the first place for Jacques. So what is the coverage of a Mudmaster, and how many machines would a customer need?
So Tim, we obviously work with our customers to determine the properties of the tailings, but in general, a Mudmaster through a specific process can easily handle between 35 and 40 hectares of tailings. So often we end up supplying multiple of these machines to our customers. We have several customers running 4 or 6 machines on a tailing dam.
Okay, great, thank you. My next question is for Ian. So what additional value is expected from moving to an integrated tailings system instead of maintaining a few separate systems?
Yeah, it depends on the systems being integrated, but dominantly what you find, other than just improved efficiency from one system you can go to, you'll quickly find that many systems were just already taking functions and just redoing things. So you can actually save some money on some licenses of sustaining those systems, or making things simpler for your people on the ground by just having one spot to go.
Right. Jeffrey, a couple for you. I'm just spreading these questions around, so if that's all right. You define benefit to Western Australia as a key measure of value to MRIWA. Can you give some examples of what benefit from a research project might look like?
Yeah, it's a good question, Tim. We don't prescribe what benefit has to look like in our approach to grant management. We ask people when they bring us a potential research project to define what this is going to do and what that might deliver in terms of value to the state. That could mean more jobs in the state, it could mean the growth of a met sector, could mean the improvement of environmental outcomes around a particular mine site. It could mean money to the government. So within that broad triple bottom line accounting that we do for benefit, if you can demonstrate there is an outcome from the research which is going to provide a benefit of any kind of in any aspect of that to the state, we're prepared to listen to that and consider how that ranks against the investment that's required in the research space.
Okay, well then, my next question is for you then. Is MRIWA limited to supporting research work in Western Australia?
No, Tim, we're not. We I think are an unusual, possibly unique as a government agency in Australia in that although we're funded entirely by West Australian government, we can and do support work anywhere in the world, as long as there's an outcome of that research that you can show will have benefit to Western Australia. So if you've got a project in Azerbaijan, but you can show us that the outcomes of this will solve a problem we have in Western Australia, we'll listen to that and we might be prepared to support that.
Great, thank you. Jacques, one for you here. Can AMC be used for dam closure purposes?
Yes, it can be. Most of our customers actually have active tailings dam and deposit continuously, but we have been involved in closure projects and is actually at the moment signing up to a contract in Brazil to do exactly that.
Okay, great. Ian, a question for you. How are tailing systems preparing to leverage newer AI capabilities? You're on mute. Sorry, Ian.
Thank you. Now, I was behaving myself. Look, that would take probably another hour to answer that one fully, but I can give the 30-second response. The answer is it's quite interesting. AI is still at a fairly early phase for many of these applications, and in a safety context, you want to be really careful how you implement it. Having said that, we've already seen AI have broad success and broad applicability in changing how we interface with systems. So asking questions, having more conversations rather than pre-building a lot of things. So it means you can kind of get a lot more bang for the buck by having an AI interface to help you out with some things. The other area that's very exciting is moving into statistical domains. Maybe Jeff might give us more information on that later on, but there's lots of things around one-shot forecasting for statistical modeling. So you don't need to configure a model. It'll actually have an 80% kind of guess rate for forecasting. As likewise, it's getting better at looking at kind of large semi-connected states where it'll say, hey, this is an unusual state rather than a trigger. So, and it'll ask an engineer and say, hey, like, this happened and this happened, this happened, but this didn't happen this time. So this might be worth your attention. So with this increase in complexity we see in monitoring, AI has a role to play in sort of sifting a little bit of signal from the noise and helping people on the ground pay attention to 4 things a day rather than 40 things a day. It's quite exciting.
Sounds like it is too. So, Jacques, are there any limitations of the Phibion for trafficking on wetter tailings beaches? That's part of this question. Is there a requirement for a dry exposed beach?
Yeah, so our machine is developed so that it basically needs to work, in an area that has a specific gravity of more than 1.29. Otherwise, it may just sink. So our machine is quite unique in the fact that it's halfway a boat and halfway a tractor. And so in the early part of the tailings process, it sort of needs to float until it gets good traction and consolidation. So what happens when tailings is deposited? Obviously, the big solids settle first and the fines run along the way. And so there does become a limitation where the machine cannot overcome the torque in very dense areas or very sandy areas where it'll basically get stuck. I mean, it has the ability to turn 40,000 Newton meters, but there is a point where it just cannot work anymore.
Great, thanks for that. Jeffrey, do the results of MRIWA research need to be made public?
Not necessarily, Tim. Our past history is that most of the research that we've funded over the past 20 years has involved a published report. But that's part of the value conversation we want to have with people. If there's a public report that's put out there so people can use the information and change their practice on that basis, that can be an example of value delivered from the research. If that's not included in what a researcher wants to put us as a proposal, something else has to be there instead. So we're open to a conversation if there's a project that has valuable outcomes in terms of IP that can be used to change practice and deliver value on the ground. That could be an alternative to releasing public information. So we're open to a conversation about what the disposition of the research outcomes is, as long as there is some demonstration of, because we're doing it this way, we can guarantee there'll be this valuable outcome for the state.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'll make this the last question because it's actually a follow-up to the previous one. So for Ian, and we talked about the AI capabilities. Is this solution modular? Can you just use a one module GIS-10?
It is. So, we got a lot of feedback early on from our clients, and that depending upon their state of maturity, they might be ready for certain modules or not for other modules. So yes, we're actively able to parcel out parts of the application to meet the client's needs. Obviously, there's more value having it all integrated, but it's also something that people will grow into as they kind of solve one problem at a time.
Thank you very much, Ian. So that's the end of our questions and answers at this point in time. If you do have a question and you would like us to present that to our presenters, please forward that to us. So if you enjoyed this webinar, please head to our website to register for the final webinar in our Innovation Spotlight series, Green Mining, coming up on Monday, 14th of October. Well, I would like to thank Jacques, Ian and Jeffrey for sharing their expertise with us today. And finally, thank you to everyone who attended. We look forward to welcoming you to another AusMine webinar in the future. Enjoy the rest of your day.